Welcome to Stuff They Didn't Teach Me in Sunday School. Last week we started talking about the major themes in Deuteronomy. One of the themes we want to look at this week is one that probably caused Israel more trouble and more difficulty in understanding than it causes us. I want to take you to Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4. And it's a section that you're used to hearing. In fact, it lives in the Hebrew faith, in Judaism today yet, as the great Shema. The great Shema, the word Shema in Hebrew means listen or hear. And that's the way the passage starts. Deuteronomy 6, verse 4. Hear, or Shema, O Israel, Yahweh our God is one Yahweh. And you shall love Yahweh your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Very familiar section. But a theme that weaves its way through the book of Deuteronomy is the idea that this nation of Israel is worshiping only one God. And they must devote their whole selves to this God, Yahweh. Now that doesn't sound too radical, except that all the nations around Israel had multiple gods. They would not have, none of them would have argued probably that Yahweh didn't exist. That wasn't the issue. All of these other nations would have recognized that Israel had a God named Yahweh. But they would have also argued that their God exists and that their gods interacted, that wars between nations were often seen as contests, judging the power of one nation's gods over the other nation's gods. In fact, in Israel's history, there were times that the other nations looked at Israel and said, you're atheists. You only have one God. All other nations, obviously there were other gods. There was a sun in the sky. There was a moon in the sky. Grass grew. There were other gods as far as the pagans were concerned. But Israel said, and God had told her, there is only one God, and he is Yahweh. The sun, and according to Genesis, and Genesis is very clear about it, the sun, the moon, the stars, all the things that the other nations worshipped were not gods, but creations of the one God. And then God commands not Israel's primary focus, but Israel's only focus. You shall love the Lord your God, Yahweh your God, with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. Jesus, of course, quotes that in the New Testament and adds more of the Greek concept to it. He adds with all your mind to the list as well. All. That's a tough one. All. That's 100%. I struggled with that early in my life. I was once a director of campus ministry, had two little boys at that time, 1 and 2 years old. And when I would be at home in an evening and I would be wrestling with my boys on the floor and wasn't making the calls that I thought I should make, I struggled with that idea that I wasn't serving God, I was serving my family. Because I saw God as a piece of the pie. That I serve God during this time, I serve my family at this time, I serve myself when I go fishing, that God was one piece of the pie. God's call to Israel and God's call to you and me is to not see God as a piece of the pie, but God's the pie. And how I divide my life up, all of it is to be in service to Him. My wrestling with my boys in the living room floor was no less my service to God than when I made calls on college students on the campus at North Dakota State University. It's not an issue of how much of my time do I devote to God. Biblically, I devote all of my time to God. But my service to my God includes my service to my family. It includes some time away from myself. It includes my pocketbook. It includes all aspects of my life. Why? Because there is one God. And that God, by the way, has bought me back from my own sin. He owns me. He owns me because He paid the price in Jesus Christ. And He has every right to say, now I want all of you. What a beautiful message. What a beautiful thing it is to serve one God and serve Him with all of our strength and our heart and our mind.